Welcome back, Fanfueled family. Today we're going to look at a theory that's been floating around the Monster Hunter community since shortly after Wilds released. There's this theory that the protagonist of Monster Hunter Wilds is, in fact, a Guild Knight. So before we get into discussing the theory itself, what even is a Guild Knight? The Guild Knights are elites. They're hunters so strong that they can handle both monsters and hunters that have gone rogue. Poachers, murderers, outlaw hunters, they track them down and kill them. Guild Knights are comparable in skill to hunters, but the Guild Knight uniform confers far more benefits than a typical hunter's armor. They're also tasked with serving as crisis time leaders, negotiators, and gathering information on monsters that are not known to the wider population like Gora Magala. Okay, so let's review the evidence for the theory. The person that appoints the player to the mission at the beginning of the game is a Guild Knight and may actually be the head of the Guild Knights. The Wilds protagonist would likely not be dispatched by the Guild Knights unless they themselves are a Guild Knight or if they have some kind of personal connection to Fabius himself. The fact that the hunter refers to Fabius as Sir would suggest to an English audience that they don't know each other well enough to be familiar. However, this could be a cultural thing. Remember, Monster Hunter is a Japanese game, and even when you know someone well, if they are in a position of authority compared to you, you still refer to them with formal titles of respect. Even if your boss is your best friend outside of work, you still refer to them with the honorific San while at work. Considering Fabius' position, any hunter, regardless of their personal relationship with him, would refer to him as Sir. Either way, Fabius says that the hunter's reputation precedes them, suggesting no familiarity.
Your reputation precedes you, Hunter. I trust you know what I've called you here to discuss. I've selected you as a lead hunter for this expedition.
Thank you, sir.
Finding the village won't be easy. You'll need the proper guide.
The next bit of evidence is the ease of the game. This is a bit of a contentious point, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. When we get the Master Rank expansion, things will likely be more challenging. However, Wilds is, of the 3 Monster Hunter games I've played, by far the easiest. This could suggest from an in-universe perspective that the hunter is already incredibly skilled. Again, that they're a Guild Knight. Third, and this is more evidence for the fact that it's ambiguous than the fact that it's true, Guild Knights often operate in secret. They pose as civilians, guild secretaries, regular hunters. Finally, the biggest piece of evidence comes when the hunter faces Zoshia for the first time. Nata is faced with a tough decision to destroy the Dragon Torch to destroy Zoshia. The Dragon Torch is, of course, part of the heritage of Nata's people, so the hunter offers a different option and says one of my favorite lines in the franchise.
By my own order. I will slay Zoshia.
Normally, the guild itself must authorize any monster to be hunted, regardless of whether the monster is to be slain or captured. Hunters do not have the ability to authorize such a hunt. That's why Alma is there, your handler. She gives official guild authorization to hunt monsters. But do you know who else can authorize a hunt? Guild Knights. A Guild Knight is allowed to authorize the hunts of other hunters as well as their own. So when the Wilds hunter says that by their own order they will slay Zoshia, if they are actually a Guild Knight, they're greenlighting the slaying of Zoshia with proper authorization. So let's quickly list the 3 bits of evidence we have just as a recap. The hunter was assigned to the mission to the Forbidden Lands by a Guild Knight, possibly the leader of the Guild Knights. They have little to no difficulty dealing with any monster in the game, and they're apparently able to authorize their own hunts. So, why does this matter? Well, right now it doesn't. It's just a neat theory. It would be interesting if there's a mission or 2 in the Master Rank expansion where we track down a rogue hunter, bring them in alive, or just execute them on the spot. I doubt Capcom would go for that latter option though. They seem reluctant to show human-on-human violence in Monster Hunter from what I've seen. Personally, I actually feel a little let down by the theory. Sure, it makes some degree of sense, but when I saw that cutscene, the hunter declaring that by my own order I will slay Zoshia, I thought it was such a badass move. The hunter was offering to Nata that they take the responsibility for saving a vital piece of Nata's culture by slaying Zoshia and facing the consequences from the guild. It felt like an act of selflessness, the hunter standing up and making that choice, knowing that normally hunters should not be making that decision on their own, but that in this case it needs to be done. Alma telling Nata to watch, that this is what a hunter does, was her approval, her giving support for slaying Zoshia. And that somber version of proof of a hero kicking in really makes the moment feel so noble, so heroic.
We don't have to do this. There's one other option.
Hunter, are you sure?
Right. It's worth a shot, isn't it?
Yeah, let's do it!
Leave this to me. hunters do.
But right now, it's just a theory. A neat theory, but that's it. Just a theory. I don't think there's enough evidence to conclusively say that it's true. I also think it cheapens the poignancy of that scene with Xochitl. We'll have to see if the theory pans out or if it fades into obscurity. Honestly, I'm curious what all of you think. Do you think the evidence we have is enough to support the idea that our hunter is a guild knight? I just want to read out a comment from last Friday's video. From Mars to Sirius 1 said, if you capture a monster, monster still dies. Guild is not releasing them to wildlife. They just research on the monsters that you captured. Where did you think monster parts are coming from when you capture a monster? So I did some research and this is patently incorrect. There is an NPC in Base World that says that monsters captured or studied then released back into the wild, and as Diego Cantu 9853 said, Wilds has monsters that straight up leave the traps after they get captured and studied by Alma from some time, so we could consider that. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that most of the time at least, captured monsters are studied, treated, and released into an ecosystem where they can be beneficial. Thank you so much for watching. I just want to shout one thing out. On my stream on Monday night, someone said they wanted me to message them on Discord that they had just subscribed. I don't have Discord. Please, if you're hearing this, leave the ideas for videos you have in the comments. Always happy to hear suggestions. Speaking of suggestions, here, have some video suggestions. Click here for a video on my 5 favorite and least favorite monsters, or click here for a visual experiment I did with the Mizutsune theme. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.